Dear viewers and listeners, welcome to another episode of the QuantiFarm podcast. In this podcast episode, we welcome Savvas Malliotis from our partner Filagro, and together we will discuss everything about the project's test cases and their role within the QuantiFarm project. Savvas, welcome and thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you for inviting me, and I hope we give the audience a first approach on what it is that we are working with in the digital farming science.
I'm sure about it. So let's start. Can you briefly explain Filagro's role within the QuantiFarm project and also give us an overview of what a test case is in the context of the project?
Yes, as a company that we were established in 2004, we are giving agroeconomic and agronomic advice to farmers in Cyprus. And in this context, we started in 2019 a service through which we are trying to support farmers in the process towards the uptake of digital tools, or you can call them precision agricultural tools, as a way of supporting them in their decision-making process. So again, in this context, we joined the QuantiFarm project as a partner in order to implement the activities of the project that we will see in the next few minutes, specializing in the olive cultivation, which Cyprus as Greece are very well known for the abundance of olive crops and their cultivation. Now, you've asked me about the test cases. A test case within the context of the QuantiFarm project is an experiment through which we are trying to use digital tools as a means of supporting the farmers in their decision-making processes. And we have one farmer who is using the digital technologies and another farmer or another field of the same farmer on a nearby location which is not using the technology. So we try what we call the control group. So we try to compare on a number of different parameters the performance of the farmer or the agricultural holding practicing digital tools compared to the control group. So it is one of these approaches where we try to see over a 3-year period, which means three cultivation periods, the impact of the use of digital tools on economic, social, and environmental parameters.
Thank you very much for this very inclusive introduction. And now I would like us to talk a little bit about Filagro's test cases, the ones that you are managing. Could you give us a description and also mention its main goals?
Yes. As I said, we have focused in olive cultivation. So we have 5 test cases, which means we have 5 farmers who are adopting the digital technologies and 5 farmers who are not adopting the digital technologies.
To make the comparison.
Make the comparison. 3 of our growers or farmers, same thing, are practicing organic production, and 2 are not practicing organic production. And also 3 of them, both organic and non-organic, are very much interested in having what we call high polyphenol olive oil production, which sells at a very high price. So this is what we call the test case in which we're working. And the objective is, as we said, to see after a 3-year period the impact of these technologies. And the technologies that we're using are the GeaSense agrometeorological stations with the software. So it's a software that collects data and uses prediction models to give advice. And we also have the software on which we enter the cultivation practices of the farmers. And these 2 softwares let's say, communicate with each other, which means that the models take data from the cultivation practices, from the agrometeorological stations and the soil sensors in order to come up with suggestions on how and when to irrigate and whether there is a risk of diseases, pests and diseases.
So they act as a consultant, let's say, to the farmer with suggestions and...
Yes, but one of the things that we are practicing, we are having as an organization one of our agronomists working with these farmers. So what we term as a smart advisor. And this is a new concept, and it is important to understand. It is one of the findings, let's say, of this project, that farmers need an advisor, need an agronomist who moves away from conventional advisory services to become a smart advisor. Only one of the 5 farmers is a big organization who has in-house an agronomist and is capable of monitoring all the procedures and interpreting data, although she is always in contact with our advisor in discussing how to sort things out. It is important to note that when we had to select the farmers, we were very careful. So we opted to choose the innovative ones, what we call the early adopters. So it means that these are not, let's say, the representative of the bigger proportion. But if you want to get results out of the project, you have to be very careful of the farmers that you select. Indeed, one of the farmers that we chose, we had to change him of the first year because we realized that he could not cope up with the design of the project and the results that we wanted to come up with. So yes, we have 5 growers. They are located at the heart of the olive growing regions of Cyprus. And I think we have a good spread, a representative spread across the island of Cyprus.
Thank you very much. And how have all these local farmers been involved in the test case activities? Was there initial feedback, positive or negative, that you could share with us from all these activities? From testing all these digital tools, actually?
Well, as I said, we opted to choose the early adopters, which means that they were from the outset positive in working with us. Obviously, we spend a lot of time working with them. This is why I said we have a smart advisor supporting them. And the way we are supporting them is on a day-to-day basis, looking at the data. We are interpreting the data on their behalf. We are also sending them every fortnight, that is every 15 days, a report. So we are compiling a 3 to 4 page report which gives all the relevant information that was derived from the agrometeorological stations, customized for each one of them. And we are also giving some suggestions about the performance they have achieved compared to the models, because we do have the models in predicting irrigation and fertigation and pesticide usage, but it's not always been followed, which means that we have to give them a feedback how well they have performed compared to the model.
So that they know the results, the actual results.
Yes, and they can improve themselves as time goes on, because it is a learning process. It's not that you start the next day, you can interpret data. It's a learning process, and it's a process where you start trusting the data only when you have realized and understood how to read them.
Yes, and you need tangible results also to make decisions and see how things are evolving.
Indeed, this is why we have the advisor, because we are working with them all the time. And because we, as I said at the beginning, we are involved in precision agriculture since 2019. So we have cooperation with other farmers as well, and in other production areas like potatoes and grapes, which means we are, let's say, well ahead of the farmers. So they keep learning from us. And as I said, it's an interactive approach and is yielding results.
And you're supporting them throughout the whole process, which is very important for them,
Yes.
as I can imagine.
Yes, yes.
And now regarding the challenges, have you encountered any during your implementation? And if so, have you responded to these challenges?
The biggest challenge we have is the lack of irrigation water. Unfortunately, the past 3 years that the project is running are the worst 3 years in terms of low rainfall in the island of Cyprus. So now we are running in the 3rd year of severe drought. Now, what does this mean? This means that farmers will not be following the prediction models because they are not able to follow them. They could be underwatering because there is no irrigation water, or overwatering, over-irrigating, because they get water from the network only once a week, let's say once every 10 days, which means that they don't have the capability of using the prediction models or following the prediction models. So yeah, this is one of the biggest drawbacks, which we have realized that any digital tool cannot solve the problem. Simple as that. If you don't have water readily available in the quantities that the model requires, and the trees that is, how can you follow the pattern? So it's a big challenge. This is a big challenge. We did come with some results, some findings, but yeah, believe me, we cannot solve that problem.
Of course, and it appears all of a sudden because of the extreme weather conditions.
Yes. And
so you have to always adapt and adapt.
Yeah, this is not just an issue for Cyprus, it's an issue I know for Greece as well, for other countries. We have to adapt ourselves. But obviously you cannot, what you cannot read and evaluate are the economic performance and the environmental impact of optimal irrigation. That we're missing that out, but not totally, to some point. I was going to say that it's not all of our farmers who have this problem. Only one of them is capable of irrigating without any blockages in the system. So we are, in that respect, we can do some comparisons.
Thank you very much. And now I would like us to focus a little bit on the methods you use to collect feedback. If you could share a little bit more about this. And also regarding farmers and participants during visits or events, and how do you use all this feedback that you gather in the end?
Okay, the QuantiFarm project has a common methodology for all the partners that participate in the project. And we have quantifiable parameters to measure and qualitative. A qualitative is the interaction between the advisor, the farmer, and the farmers between them. On the quantitative side, let me say that on both quantitative and qualitative, we have the parameters in economic, environmental, and social aspects. So these three, the two of them are, let's say, quantifiable, economic, environmental. The social aspect is on a qualitative side. So each year, at the end of each cultivation year, we collect all the data from the crop production procedures, cultivation practices, and we measure versus the control group. As I said, and I remind you that the control group is a nearby field, which means that all other things being equal, if the digital tools are well performing, then we will see better results in each of the 5 cases. And believe me, it's not always the case, because there are also other parameters that affect the performance of the farmer, like the tree health, and how well the farmer is using the digital tools. But in general, we do see good results. And also we are doing a benchmarking exercise where we compare the farmers that use the digital technologies between them, and to what extent they use the data interpreted in their decision support system. I think I need to clarify what the decision support system is, because it's something that we use quite often in the discussion of precision agriculture.
Yes, of course, but not many people know exactly what it is, but please tell us.
Well, we have the technology, and from the technology, data is being produced, and that data is useless for the farmer because it's numbers, it's graphs. I mean, a farmer will not be able to use the data in their raw form.
So they have the information, but they don't know what to do with it.
It's not information, it's data.
Yes, data.
It becomes information when you are capable of interpreting what that data is all about. And this is where the advisory service comes in. And so the advisor will interpret data and will transform that into suggestions. And the decision support system is where you start changing the way a farmer decides when and how to irrigate, how much to irrigate, and when and how much to spray, because there is additional information being provided to him through the technology. So this is the concept of the decision support system, and this is why we need data technologies.
Of course. Thank you very much for this very well-explained answer, and for the audience to actually understand what you're doing and how you're supporting farmers throughout all this process. And now let's move on to another question.
Yes.
Could you describe the key lessons and good practices that you have identified as Filagro during the test cases that you are managing, and so that other test case leaders or farmers could benefit from the good practices that you have identified so far?
Well, one of the important aspects is a good practice. Not one of the findings, let's say, the good practice that comes afterwards is that farmers over-irrigate. And all of them, from the very first year, we realized that they use more water than the trees need. So there is environmental cost through which technologies aim to help reduce the impact on water usage and also reduce the cost to the farmer. The next thing that is very important is that through the data we have realized and we have advised them to change the system they use when they irrigate. Because we have the mechanical structure of the soil, we realized that in specific cases, drip irrigation is not the appropriate method of irrigating, and we've changed that to sprinkler irrigation. So because we can read the water capacity and the water storage and how much when irrigated remains around the root of the tree, we are capable of suggesting better ways of irrigating by changing irrigation systems. A third of the findings is that we need smart advisors. And the concept of a smart advisor is an important one because we need to train these advisors to become smart. I personally don't believe that small farmers, small agricultural holders have the time, I wouldn't say the ability, because they might have the ability, but they don't have the time to learn how to use and interpret data. So we need a smart advisor, and it's important that we need to have this task and move our advisors from conventional to smart advisory services. And it's important that the data that you use when you carry out benchmarking is one important aspect of improving all the farmers' performance, because you realize that what one does and is good can be transferred to the other ones as well.
And can be applied to a lot more farmers.
Yeah, exactly.
So
yes.
What they need from the advisor is to have the knowledge first of all, share with them the knowledge in a way that they can understand the knowledge and put it into practice and see better results. This is what I understand from the whole description you provided.
Yes, but they also have to understand that it's a learning process. So we stress the fact that farmers need an advisor, but they also need to be aware and read the reports and the data, so they gradually become more involved in the decision process. I mean, it's no good having an advisor and the farmer not spending a minute looking at the software and understanding what's the data being available to measure. So yes, the farmer has to realize that it's a learning curve and has to be really involved in this process.
Of course, I believe that it's not a linear process. It has its back and forths, some drawbacks maybe, but you get familiar, you learn from it, and then you move on. This is what I imagine from what you're saying.
Yes, you learn from possibly you also learn from mistakes that you have made. But the nice thing about this technology approach is that you have so much data that you can persuade the farmer, or the farmer himself can be persuaded of what he's doing right or wrong, because there's data to prove that.
Of course, thank you very much. And one more question regarding how you organize and plan all these demo events. Do you follow any specific approach that involves better the local communities and actually has an impact to the local communities?
As yet, we have not done any demo event. We are planning to have an event at the end of the 3-year period. And actually next week, I am meeting with a team of community council presidents and growers in one of the main growing region of olive cultivation in Cyprus, because we want to have a demo event and a training event that will have more of a cluster of villages approach, and where we will try to engage all the farmers in understanding the role of technology, especially focusing on olive crop cultivation. We are planning to have that in October. I cannot tell you more because we are having a brainstorming session next week, but I'm sure there is a lot of interest from these. They are both growers and they are also involved in local community actions. So yeah, I think we will have a good approach. We will also invite the public sector, both the policy making as well as the public advisors, because we need the policy makers to have new policies in place, and we also need the public sector advisors, because we need to get a few of them becoming smart advisors.
So it will happen very soon, but not yet.
The meeting will be next
Yes.
week, but we plan to have the events in October.
Great.
It's when our third year is approaching its end. So the cultivation period in Cyprus begins in January, December, January, and it is completed in October, November, where the harvest takes place.
And you will have more things to show at this point.
Indeed, yes, because we will have the 3-year period through which we will get clear indications of the comparisons between the farmers using the technology and those that are not using the technology.
And now I was about to ask you, as a last question for our today's podcast, about your next activities. You have said some things, of course, but would you like to say a little bit more about your next activities planned and how are you going to measure their success?
One of the new activities that we are having this year are the electronic olive fruit fly traps. So this is it's an innovation for Cyprus. It's the first time that we will be using electronic traps, and it's not only an innovation for the farmers themselves, but because we're going to have 4 traps around Cyprus, this can also become a system of early warning for the olive fruit fly for the whole of Cyprus. So at least for the last year, this is a new innovation that will be added to the other digital tools, because this is a digital tool as well. It's an electronic trap which reads through a camera and transfers data through a software at the office. So we will be doing also some work from distance. This is one of the things. Obviously, the other digital innovation is the one that we've been doing over the past 2 years, and we will end the whole of the period 2025, and hopefully we will make better recommendations out of the 3-year evaluation process. The addition of the fruit fly is a very important aspect because it combines the digital tool of the agrometeorological stations and the environmental parameters used for predicting diseases with another tool that was not available, through which we can monitor the risk of the disease, which is very important for Cyprus, and give early warnings.
Thank you very much for sharing all this information with us today, and of course for joining our podcast and giving us so many valuable insights.
Thank you. I hope they've been useful and transferable also to other farmers and other countries.
I'm sure about it.
Thank you.
And as for you, dear viewers and listeners, thank you very much for watching this episode, and don't forget to stay tuned for all the next episodes.